What up, everybody? It is a very early morning edition of That's OD. I'm Ohm, here with my dude, Dave McMenamin, let's look forward to Lakers Warriors, and we'll also go over the autopsy of the Clippers season because we didn't get a chance last week due to our busy schedules. So thanks for being patient with us. I swear to you, Dave, my eyes may be a little red, but it's only because I was up late last night writing the great Nikola Jokic and his MVP performance. No other shenanigans going on in Denver here, Dave. I think you are already up in the Bay, right?
Yeah, up in San Francisco. We got the sixth postseason meeting between the Lakers.
I cannot wait.
Not the Lakers, between LeBron and Steph Curry. I should fix that. It's the first time in 32 years that we're getting Lakers Warriors in the postseason. But LeBron and Steph, those four NBA finals from 15 to 18, the playing game in 2021, and now we have this playoff series that, quite frankly, I don't want to overstate it, but we've both been chronicling the NBA this year and obviously watching and covering the playoffs closely in a wide open NBA. The winner of this series could be the launch pad for Steph's fifth ring or LeBron's fifth ring.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was praying to the basketball gods we would get this matchup. It certainly feels like a finals matchup just because of Steph versus LeBron. Before we get to that, and what is an amazing rivalry, Dave, where does the 50-point Steph latest, legendary gem Game 7 rank with you as far as like some of the amazing games we've seen? To me, it was just, it's funny. I was there last year when Steph had that explosion at Boston, and you kind of knew it was coming because it was like the series was kind of becoming a little bit of like a rock fight in Boston, and they kind of needed that little extra, they needed that extra superstar performance. And to me, it was kind of like the Celtics just were not ready for it. And once that happened, it was kind of like, okay, the champs are here. And I felt like that's exactly what he did to the Sacramento Kings. It's like, okay, this has gone to a Game 7 enough. It's time for me to take the champs to the next level. And he kind of gave that lesson to the Kings. What did you think as you were watching it?
So yeah, Game 4 he had in the finals last year in Boston, my favorite Steph Curry game of his career, which it was literally everything you'd ever want from a superstar. You go into a legitimate hostile crowd. If you lose, it's 3-1, and who knows where the series go. If you win, obviously 2-2, and you got a shot. The crowd's getting on your teammate and Draymond Green, and you totally change the energy. You bring it on me. And Draymond mentioned after the series that he needed that. I think the other game for Steph that comes to mind is Game 6, Western Conference Finals in Houston in 2018 when Kevin Durant was hurt. And Houston obviously was, other than the Cavs, the biggest agitator of the main chunk of the Warriors dynasty. And, he just carried them. I think he had something 30-plus points in the second half of that game. I remember him going on Scott Van Pelt that night, and you could tell that it was really meaningful to him. It was one of the kind of seminal moments for him individually over the course of that rivalry. And obviously the stakes, the further you get into the playoffs, the stakes, you get higher and higher. Now I understand, considering that we don't know what's going to happen with the Warriors this summer, that Game 7 stakes in the first round against Sacramento was pretty big, but I have a hard time putting it, even with 50, I have a hard time putting it above those two games we just mentioned. In terms of Game 7s, though, just period, I was able to cover Sixers Raptors in 2019. Kawhi Leonard hit the only buzzer beater in Game 7 history. Obviously, bounced around the rim up in Toronto. That one always stood, came up to mind for me just because it was so close, right? Steph was amazing, but they ended up winning that game by about 20, right? So again, I give him all the flowers, back up the flower truck. This is no hate. This is all praise. I'm just saying he's done things that are even better than that 50-point game 7.
Yeah, I mean, whew, Steph is it's funny because like it started a conversation of, is Steph now the greatest point guard of all time ahead of Magic Johnson? I understand where that conversation is coming from. I think if Steph wins a championship this season, then I think he might leapfrog Magic. I don't know. For me, Magic is the greatest
Hey,
point
hold
guard
on, I'm
of
just
all.
calling the Michigan State Alumni Association.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that,
I have an incident report on Youngmisuk. Yeah, okay.
I think I got to see how this continues to go, the rest of his career goes, because Magic, to me, I think there's a whole generation that does not understand Magic Johnson epitomized winning. I mean, like, basically he set the standard. Yes, the Lakers won so many championships before him, but he is the definition of Showtime. Without Magic Johnson, you don't have the Showtime Lakers. And what he did, not only with his assists, not only with the flashy fast breaks, but just the will to win, like imposing his will on other teams, I just think is so overlooked that's why he's, the greatest point guard of all time for me.
Before there was positionless NBA, for anyone who's watching, and we love that you're getting into the NBA at an early age and they're learning your history here. Magic Johnson played center in an NBA Finals game against Philadelphia.
Dude, like early in his career. You know what I mean?
It was his rookie season.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, filling in for the captain, like basically, and you throw him into these NBA all time. We're talking about he won all time NBA finals. He didn't just win 5 championships. He had to go through the one of the greatest franchises of all time in the Boston Celtics. Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, all those guys. So like, Magic to me is still the greatest point guard of all time, and it's really hard for me to not put Steph in my all time top 5 right now, because of just, I am a huge fan of Steph Curry. Like, I am a huge fan of his greatness, how he's changed the game in many ways. He just continues to amaze me. So I'm not ready to put him there in my all-time greatest yet at point guard, but he could very well be on his way. Dave, let's get into Lakers Warriors, man. I am so excited. You've seen this rivalry of Steph versus LeBron live in person. You've chronicled it. What do you think this latest wrinkle to this rivalry is going to be like, after all the ones you've seen in the finals?
LeBron said something really interesting at practice Monday when I asked him about Steph, and just basically the question was, what is it about Steph, consider you guys have been such fierce rivals, that allows you to openly have such a deep admiration for him? Because sometimes that doesn't go that way, because of you've had so many games with so much at stake over the course of your career. The resentment could build, et cetera, et cetera. And honestly, like, if you look at the general, I guess, Twitter temperature of the day-to-day, praise that LeBron gets versus Steph gets, I'd say Steph's probably a little bit higher. Now, I'm not saying that Steph doesn't have haters as well, but there could be reasons for LeBron to not view Steph this way. But he said, one, you respect his work ethic, and he said 9 out of 10 times, if you have someone that works that hard, there's going to be results there. But then he said that we both want to etch our names in the records books, but in our own way. And I love that, because it was him acknowledging that, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And the way LeBron does it, he truly believes it is the best way to do it. But he acknowledges that the way Steph does it, he can't find any faults in it, because Steph does it at such a high level. But I just thought that was cool. And I think that they are both have gotten to a point in their career. Certainly LeBron has. We know that with the scoring record this year, and just him focusing on his son's ascent in the sport, he knows that the light at the end of the tunnel is making him have to wear sunglasses indoors sometimes. It's getting so bright. But Steph's starting to get to that point too. He's 3 years younger, and I'm not trying to start the Steph retirement tour, but I think there will be a bit of whimsy to this series. because they both recognize that this could be the last time
Right.
they
Right.
get to have something like this, and it will force them to look back a little bit when they've been so focused at looking forward.
Don't you think, Dave, if I remember watching some of the finals between LeBron and Steph, and when they would jaw and chirp at each other, it was always like LeBron's respect for guys that were bigger, more athletic, always came naturally. Whereas I think like Steph kind of had to earn that from LeBron, like because you would see sometimes when he would block block Steph's shot, LeBron would be like, "Come on, man," you know what I mean? Like, or Steph would get in his face and like try to talk trash to him and be tough, and LeBron be like, "Come on, man." But then it was like, "Hey, dude, this guy's for real." You know what I mean? Like, yes, he had a great team. I think like LeBron looked at it like Warriors were a great team, right? But then all of a sudden it was like, you know what? Steph is a great, great talent superstar. I think it took some time for LeBron, like, because LeBron at that point in his career, he was just so good, so much better than others. Like, the chief competitors that are coming at him. I think, like, for whatever reason, sometimes people would look at Steph Curry and be like, yeah, he's a great 3-point shooter, but he needs these screens and he needs his team to free him up. You're like, I don't look at Steph that way. I look at Steph as just like, dude, he's an incredible talent. Yes, the Warriors are a great team and they do have a great scheme, but I feel like if he were on another team, he still would be just as good. Do you feel like it took like Steph had to earn that from LeBron?
Yeah, I do. And I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, even listen,
Which is
think
weird
back.
saying, right? As great
It
as he
is,
was,
it is,
as
it
great
is
as he
strange.
is.
But I think there's a kind of a too much too soon view that LeBron has when he looks around the league sometimes, when he sees the NBA kind of machine get behind a player. And
Too much too soon.
yeah.
Memphis Grizzlies.
Exactly.
Sorry, Memphis.
Now, actually, as an individual player, LeBron has shown a great deal of respect and almost like parental care for Ja Morant over the years. So I wouldn't quite put that in the same category, but certainly the Memphis Grizzlies. He for years now has thought they were too big for their britches, and then he clearly showed them that in the first round. But yeah, I mean, there's just been certain guys where it's irked him a little bit that LeBron, one of his mantras is earned, not given, and he felt like he has worked really hard to be the face of the league for a long time, and there's a lot that goes into that. And then everyone's getting tired of me, and you're bringing in this babyface assassin. What's going on? He's better than me, Yeah. I think there was a level of that, like what's going on here. And 2015 Finals, Matthew Dellavedova is giving Steph Curry fits for a couple games in the series, but again, like I don't think LeBron, when he looks at himself in the mirror back then, is like, oh, I know Matthew Dellavedova couldn't do crap with me. So like, what's going on here? But obviously, over the years, I think 2017, that was a 4-1 series, but it was a really competitive 4-1 series, and people in Cleveland still believe that if Kyle Korver hits that shot in the corner, maybe the Cavs win that championship. But in that series, in a crucial moment, Steph beats LeBron off the dribble in Oracle, and LeBron was as locked in as he possibly could be in that possession. And Steph was just better in that moment. And I'm not saying I've ever talked to LeBron about that specific play, but to me, that kind of turns the tide in my head in terms of, well, then Steph obviously wins in 17 and 18. And ever since then, you've seen a larger degree of respect from LeBron to Steph, picking him in his all-star teams and things like that. Whenever Steph gets brought up, it's nothing but platitudes.
I am really interested in seeing some of the matchups in this series. Obviously, we know Steph is going to be great. We know Klay Thompson is going to find his shot and he's going to be hot at some point in this series. I love the defensive matchup and what is going to happen. Draymond Green on LeBron James, Draymond Green and Kevon Looney on Anthony Davis. To me, I think that very well could decide the series, Dave, because Draymond Green loves these like type of matches. I talked to him last year right after they beat Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets in the first round, and Draymond was exhausted mentally and physically. Just saying, like, basically, he sounded like Ray Lewis trying to match wits with Peyton Manning, just like at the line of scrimmage, just Nikola Jokic bringing the ball up the floor and him trying to figure out which way is Nikola Jokic going to go. Now, this is a very different matchup. Whether, he actually told me, he said, the only other guy who was this tough for me to guard and try to figure out what his next move was from a chess move standpoint is LeBron. And so I can't wait to see it. It's funny that Mark Spears reported, did you see this, Dave, that like Draymond was injured when LeBron was going to break the scoring record and the Warriors were on the road. They were getting ready to go to Portland. Draymond, who loves LeBron James, wanted to go down and see it in person and be there at the game. I think he was also going to work in the broadcast booth or something like that for TNT.
Yeah.
And so that's very understandable. Like, this is history being made. But at the same time, you're not with your team on the road. And so Steve Kerr said, nah, I think it's just not a good look for the team to travel to Portland without you while you're flying to Los Angeles. Rather have you with the team. And Draymond said, okay, yeah, I'll do that. What did you make of that? What do you make of like the whole, because Draymond is incredibly complimentary of LeBron all the time, so much so that I don't think I've seen like an opposing player just love another player like like he loves LeBron.
It's very bizarre. I mean, I guess no, I'll take that back. When I first started to see that relationship play out, I found it to be very bizarre. Because I was so used to looking at Draymond in the context of Golden State Warriors versus Cleveland Cavaliers, and looking at Draymond in the context of, he said, I'll say the B word to LeBron in the finals in 2016, which what led LeBron to stepping over him, which what led to Draymond giving the armbar between LeBron's legs, which led to the suspension, which
cost the Warriors the championship.
Right, sure. But in a weird roundabout way, first, just to talk about the competitive side of things, LeBron's got to love Draymond Green, because if Draymond Green didn't take the bait and doesn't get suspended, who knows? Maybe the greatest moment of LeBron's career never happens with that 3-1 comeback. But beyond that, Draymond, in the early days of uninterrupted LeBron's multimedia platform, when they were filming the early editions of The Shop, which it was YouTube. I don't even know if it was a YouTube show. I think it was just you could watch it on Uninterrupted's website, and then at one point it was on HBO, and now it's a YouTube show, just like our show. Draymond was on there in episodes. Sometimes the episodes don't include LeBron anymore, but he was on there in episodes with LeBron. You could just see their discourse. You could see how one guy would make a point and the other guy would step in, and they would kind of spark one another. It was just kind of natural. And then I think there was one of the summers where LeBron was invited to Draymond's wedding, and again, the internet was going nuts. Like, what's LeBron doing at Draymond's wedding? But like, obviously, if you're extending a wedding invite to someone, you have a relationship with them. Yeah. And so since then, it's not surprised me. I think the underlying current, which is very interesting, is Draymond Green as a player option for next year. What could happen this summer? Because the Lakers, depending, obviously, some of the moves they made in February and January, some of these guys for sure, you could say they absolutely want some of these players returning, but maybe not all of them. And it'd be interesting to see if Draymond at some point will be a teammate of LeBron James's.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we talked about this on earlier. That's OD earlier in the season when the Jordan Poole Draymond Green incident happened, and how I thought this was bigger than your normal fight because of the way it came out. But it also gives the Warriors, like, I mean, the underlying thing was it also gives the Warriors a reason not to pay Draymond Green. They have it as evidence and footage, and can always say, oh, well, look, this happened. Because he's a lightning rod. I mean, if you look obviously in the first round against the Kings with the stomp on Sabonis and then getting suspended, are those things that you want to pay Draymond Green, but at the same time, that he's a champion and he's the heart of the defense. He is in many ways, a lot of times, the brains of the Golden State Warriors, not just defensively, but offensively. So I do think, Draymond does look forward to perhaps, eventually becoming a free agent and choosing where he wants to go. So that'll be interesting. Let me be clear though, Dave. I mean, even though he has love for LeBron, once they get between those lines, Draymond just wants to win at all costs. And so does LeBron. So right. I don't think friendship is going to, we could talk about Magic and Isaiah Thomas, who I actually ran into last night, was talking with Isaiah. We didn't talk about this, but I'm just saying, like, the friendship always is put to the side once you're on the court and you want to win. You have all-time greats like these guys. So what do you think about AD in this matchup? I mean, to me, if AD is AD and dominant AD, like he showed at times against Memphis, that is going to be a load for the Golden State Warriors. As good as Kawhi Leonard has played so far in these playoffs, and then they can throw Draymond on him as well. I just feel Anthony Davis is probably the guy that could really make the big difference in this series.
Yeah, I honestly think, and I've had people within the team tell me as much, that if AD plays great, the Lakers should win. And if AD does not play well, then the Lakers won't win. And so it is that kind of tipping the scale moment, or tipping the scale player in this series, especially because there's going to be a guy on the opposite side of things who just came off a series where he averaged 15 rebounds per game in Kawhi Leonard, who his energy is clearly felt by the Warriors. It's not just the numbers. He is a self-starter whose energy kind of trickles down throughout the rest of the lineup. AD, similarly, if he gets his own motor going early in a game, generally he's going to be good the rest of the night. And so, the idea is you got to match. AD's got to be ready for the first quarter of these games to match the energy that Kawhi Leonard's bringing to the floor. To one, not only get himself going, but two, then try to suppress the energy that Kawhi Leonard can bring to the rest of the Warriors. And let's say this: AD offensively, I would say, was a bit up and down, obviously, against Memphis. Two really poor shooting games in game 2 and game 5. Or not game 5, excuse me, game 2 and game 3, I guess it would be. But 26 blocks over the course of a 6-game series. The only other Lakers players to do that in a 6-game playoff series, 25 blocks or more, are Shaquille O'Neal and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He was excellent defensively, and I think the Lakers will start with that. If they get that effort from Anthony Davis anchoring their defense, they think the offense will come. I think the one thing we have to look out for, and Ty Lue was the guy, I think, to show the entire league how to guard AD. If the double teams come, they need quick actions out of Anthony Davis. He's been methodical offensively when those occur, and a lot of times he's making the right plays. He'll find a shooter. But he'll find the shooter when it's lower in the shot clock, and harder for the shooter to feel the confidence to have enough time to get into their full shooting rhythm, versus when he catches it, tries to elude the double team, all of a sudden they have to foul him. He's getting to the foul line, finding his room there. I'd say that will be the key, not just the energy part, but if Steve Kerr, and I'm sure he will, decides to give him a heavy dose of double teams, AD's got to act quick.
Yeah, I was watching SVP the other night, and the great Tim Legler was on, and Leg showed just the difference between like an engaged Anthony Davis and a not engaged Anthony Davis. And he showed like when AD sets a screen, sometimes AD after the screen, if he's not involved in that particular play or getting the ball, he'll kind of just drift out to the 3-point line, and that's it, and stand there. But an engaged AD, as he showed in this one clip, went down into the paint, still didn't get the ball. And then he said, sometimes a disengaged AD will then wander out of the paint and just kind of stand there. But on this particular play, he showed he got into the paint, he banged with the guys, he waited for the shot to go up, grabbed the rebound and scored. And it was just like, you could tell there was an intent. I'm going to be, you know that Draymond Green and Looney are going to get physical with him way before any of the actions are set. You know, they're going to try to get into him to make him just feel them and also perhaps shy away and not be as engaged. So, I'm sure AD is going to have to be ready for that. And let's pray that everybody stays healthy in this series, because we've seen that in this postseason, everybody's, gotten injured. I forgot to ask you one last thing about Steph and LeBron, Dave. The rivalry between Steph and LeBron. I mean, I think we can say it's the greatest rivalry of the 2010s decade, right? And here we are now in 2023, still going on. What do you think as far as like this rivalry and maybe where it ranks for you?
Yeah, I mean, NBA wise, it's like certainly top 5 NBA wise, of course, because of the preponderance of the times they've met in the finals. It's a little tough because they don't play the same position. Obviously, LeBron does play some point forward, but it's not like they're matching up every time versus like Magic and Bird.
Yeah.
Where obviously Magic and Bird, they play different positions, but I felt like because of their size matchup, they would match up more often on the defensive end. Then you're going to see Steph guarding LeBron guarding Steph. But listen, Game 7, 2016 Finals had 30 million viewers. 30 million viewers. It's not just because it's a Game 7. This was LeBron and Steph. They were two of the most compelling athletes of our times. And as the NBA shifted, you had the ultimate positionless basketball player in LeBron James versus the face of the three-point revolution at Steph Curry. And they were both kind of the guys to kind of lead that change through the NBA. So I think, I don't know if you want to go, Frazier Ali. I don't know if you want to go Manning Brady. I don't know. You're a tennis guy.
No, let's go there, Big-Ten. Come on.
I'm sure you got a tennis rivalry.
I mean, it's
Fed
Nadal. I mean, right? Like it because I think you hit right on the point there, Dave. Because of what they have meant to the game. It's not necessarily like them head to head as much as it's like what each have meant to the game. Look, I'm probably going to get killed for saying this, but we wanted this from Kobe LeBron. That rivalry. We just didn't get. We never got it in the finals, right?
Yeah.
And in some ways, to me, this has transcended Kobe LeBron because we didn't get it with Kobe LeBron as like we wanted it in the finals, and also just what you said. There's just a legion of a whole generation that is trying to play like Steph Curry. And there's a whole generation that has watched LeBron. LeBron is their greatest player of all time. And so when you have those two things, those two forces colliding together, that to me, that's why I think I have that rivalry probably better than Kobe LeBron, especially, of course. And then you add on all the NBA finals in the history there.
That was really well put. Yeah. The guys want to play like versus the guy that the generation has viewed as the best player.
Yeah. Dave,
right,
we did not get to get into the autopsy of the Clippers last week. Obviously they lost Kawhi for the final 3 games. It came out that he had a torn meniscus. Clippers, obviously we're trying to tell everybody that it was a day-to-day injury initially, and it was a right knee sprain. But Dave, I think as I've told you this on this show before, when Kawhi Leonard plays, he plays hard, he plays with a lot of force. And when he does take a spill, he falls down like a bag of bricks and like a big man almost. And when he gets up, I'm always almost like, whoa, that didn't look too good. And he might have a little bit of like a hitch in his gait or a limp, but then he continues to play, finishes the game, and all seems well until like 24 hours later when you find out something is wrong. And that's exactly what happened. I feel bad for the Clippers because I truly believe this, Dave. Had Kawhi Leonard stay healthy in that series, I think the Clippers win that series and beat the Suns. I'm not alone in that too. I talked to somebody last night who, is been connected with the Phoenix Suns and who thought, if Kawhi Leonard played, there was a good chance the Suns were going to lose that series, just how good he was playing. I mean, he was at almost like that finals MVP level. So now with him being out and Paul George being out, you are now entering year 5 of the PG Kawhi era, where they just have not been able to stay healthy. And Steve Ballmer is going to have an interesting decision this summer because Kawhi Leonard is up for an extension, and so is Paul George. They are both entering. They have 2 years left in their contract, but the last year, which is 2 years from now, is a player option for them, which also coincides with when Steve Ballmer will open his new arena, not next season, but the season after. So it's going to be real interesting what you do. I mean, how much money are you going to really commit to Kawhi Leonard when, as great as Kawhi Leonard is, and he certainly reminded everyone that in those first 2 games against the Phoenix Suns, how much money are you going to give to Kawhi Leonard and how long? Because the availability is a problem. I asked Lawrence Frank this, he was talking about his end of the year press conference, look, just because of the way we finished and how hard we played and all the injuries, I don't want the injuries to mask that we did not take the regular season seriously enough, where guys were, hurt. But even the guys that were hurt, no matter who was playing, they felt they had a deep enough roster to win more games than what they did in the regular season. But I asked Lawrence Frank, I was like, how do you improve on the availability? The availability is a clear issue here. Your superstars.
Is that him pointing out coaching?
No, I think he was very, very complimentary of Ty Lue. I think it's more like he's saying that the vets on the team, no matter who was available, just kind of didn't take the regular season seriously. I think underlying, like at least for me, I also think yes, there is a difference between load managing and whether or not guys are hurt. And by the way, this stupid narrative that people thought Kawhi Leonard was actually load managing in the first round is ridiculous. He was hurt. Okay. He's not going to, this is his time of year. But look, there were times, and I can point to you, there was a game, an afternoon game against Sacramento. It was a Saturday, 12 o'clock game. Clippers hate those games. Okay. They don't get up for that. Day before, though, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George have been out for a good stretch. I want to say it was like a 6-game stretch, and they were getting ready to come back. They practiced. I think Ty Lue was ready to have his stars back. Everything was looking good. And all of a sudden, Saturday morning, both of them were ruled out. And I think there are times when, and I don't know whose decision this is, the medical team or whether it's the players. It's hard to say if a player is hurt, not ready to come back. But it also certainly feels like at times, like you see around the rest of the league, I think some people feel like, I'm talking about fans, might feel like, do these guys want to play? And I think there was frustration in the Clippers organization that day, that specific day with the Sacramento Kings game, where people were just like, we had this feeling like we're just throwing away some games here. We need our stars to be back. And I think some of the frustration for Ty Lue is that there were times when he would not know if his star players were available until the day of the game. I mean, he said, if we were to take Ty Lue at his word, that before game 3, he learned of Kawhi Leonard's knee injury the night before game 3, and in the morning of game 3, the shoot around, learned that they would not have Kawhi Leonard. So think about a head coach having to prepare for your game 3, and you just find out in the morning shoot around your star is not available, which I guess is today the new NBA. But
there's 2 things at play potentially here. I don't want to make it about the Clippers because obviously they're not the only team that has their stars treat games this way. But one, I wonder if the stat-driven era we're in informs some of these player decisions. If indeed it's not the medical staff deciding it, if the player has an option, okay, you can play, can you not? And if games played generally is not going to be a knock on you when it comes to your averages, when you look at your statistical output, the same way that if I come back at where I feel like I'm only 80% of my capacities and I have a night where I may shoot 30% trying to get back into rhythm, I wonder if the statistical part comes into play. But I think also the bigger thing, and this is where I think every team can improve on it. One of my favorite quotes from Dr. J was, being a professional is doing what you love on days you don't feel like doing it. Just everybody needs to buck up a little bit. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, look, on the other end, you see like Jimmy Butler didn't play a lot this season, right? But look what he's doing in the playoffs, And I think like with Kawhi Leonard, I would tell people, look, I'm not a fan of load management. I come from an era where like guys played 82 games. It was
Yeah.
like a badge of honor. You know, you just did that. But it worked for Kawhi Leonard until he got hurt. And that's the other thing too, that fans were just like, look, the load management didn't work. Injuries happen in the playoffs, okay? I mean, load managing worked for Kawhi Leonard to get him to the point of game one, game two, where he was dominant. He got hurt. You know what I mean? Like, that does not have anything to do with whether or not he did not play back-to-backs in the regular season or not. I think you can look at the way he played the first two games and say load management worked for him. He just was unlucky again. I don't know, Dave, like, would you give Kawhi Leonard an extension? I mean, yeah, you might give him a 2-year extension or something like that. Would you give him a multi-year extension?
Yeah, absolutely. You're pot committed. You've gone down this road. You're going to see if there's anything left in Kawhi Leonard in terms of championship basketball. It may not happen. It could continue to be a bad string of luck. Him and Paul George combined, we haven't really talked about Paul George's injuries, but he's been right there with the bad luck on the injury front. They played less than 50% of the games that they possibly could have together. It may be less than 40%. I mean, it's kind of a shocking number. But you're
38
there.
games. 38 games they played this season on the court together.
Right.
But I would say this, Dave. I agree with you. I would give him the money because I think and the years you've committed to him. Certainly, but I think like when you got to take, like, sometimes you're so involved in this, you got to take let's pan out 30,000 miles above the air and look at the whole big picture here. The Clippers, if they just, Ty Lue said this, when we've had our guys healthy, we haven't lost a series yet. It obviously hasn't been that much, but when they've had them together, they've won. Nobody's beaten them. So it's like, let's just see what happens if they can just do it and be healthy. We know how good the Clippers can be, and we'll see that. And Ty Lue was actually, I got to say, he sounded like at first a coach that was like, hey, is he saying farewell? Because at the beginning of his press conference, he was like thanking people for the coaching staff, the players, the assistants, the organization, Ballmer, management. He was thanking fans for support for his entire 3 years, and he was emotional. And I've seen this before, like coaches get so emotional at the end of a series because so much has been invested, and the way his team fought, they were down 20 and then they came back at the end, that Ty Lue was feeling emotional. And it was easily the most frustrating season on and off the court for Ty Lue. As he said, he lost, I think, 7 family members at one point. He invests a lot, and he never left the team because they were in a 5-game losing streak. And of course, like I just said, with the availability of the stars, it was a very frustrating season for him. But I think as Ty Lue showed in that first round, he is one of the probably top 3 coaches in the league. So hopefully, he stays with the Clippers. We'll see what happens there. And then the other question, last question going into the offseason for them, the biggest one is a big one is Russell Westbrook. The Clippers loved what he did for him. I think he's found a home, Dave. He has exceeded all expectations of what they were thinking when they signed him at the All-Star break. But because of the new CBA and it being so restrictive for teams like the Clippers, who are a tax-paying team, they can only offer him close to the veteran minimum, which I think would be like maybe $3.85 million or something like that. If Russell Westbrook can get more than that on the market, if another team offers him, I don't know, $9-10 million a year, what is Russell Westbrook going to do? Is it enough that he has made enough money in the past and said, I have found a home here in Los Angeles and I am close to my family. I'm very happy here. He said he loves the Clippers organization. I think the feeling is mutual because he gave them all the energy and juice. And look, and here's the biggest thing he gives them: availability, Dave. Like with their 2 other stars always not being available, guess what? Russell Westbrook plays every game. So that would be big for them. But I don't know if Russ is going to leave any money on the table.
Wouldn't you just be shocked if he went anywhere else? I mean, listen, he's from Los Angeles, where he wanted to be. He has his out of the gift clothing store, brick and mortar. And that's something that he is investing more of his time and thought and energy to. He has his school that he sponsors in Los Angeles. Obviously, his family, his parents still live there, and he found a home on the floor. I mean, I guess it's the NBA, so we had to expect the unexpected, but he's going to be a Clipper next year. Of course he is.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you, but in general, it's like stars don't leave money on the table, man. Like and yes, he's made a lot of money, like probably over 300 million, maybe in the middle, like a 300 to 400 million. But stars in general, they don't tend to lose. They don't tend to leave money on the table. And on top of that, look, I think there is a stigma. I don't seem to agree with it, but there's sometimes a stigma when a guy gets bought out that they're toward the end of their career. I think Russ has shown like he reestablished his market, that maybe has shown like that the Los Angeles Lakers, his time with the Lakers was a little bit, perhaps a blip on the radar, but I don't know. We'll have to see. I think, to me, at this point in his career, happiness should matter the most. And to him, happiness should be with the Clippers. And so he should probably come back. That's my take on it. So
Nikola Jokic up 2-0 on Kevin Durant. Is this thing a wrap?
It feels like it, Dave. It feels like with Chris Paul going down, and listen, I'm not even saying Chris Paul was a massive factor in this series because he wasn't hitting the normal shots that he's been hitting. You can even go back to the last round and see that he would miss a lot of shots that Chris Paul normally makes. Kevin Durant is playing heavy minutes, like 40 plus minutes. So is Devin Booker. In game one, the Nuggets were physical with them, kind of got them feeling uncomfortable even in their mid-range game. This whole thing where the Suns take more mid-range shots and three-pointers kind of bit them in game one. Game two, you see Booker taking more threes. But look, the fact of the matter is they got a bad game from Jamal Murray. I mean, Jamal Murray is like 1 for 10 to start the game. He shot 0 for 9 from 3. This was his bad game of the series. And the Suns had no answer for Nikola Jokic. So now it's like, okay, if one guy isn't doing it, the other guy is going to kill you. And I don't know. I don't see the Suns having an answer for that. I mean, it's like they can throw body after body at Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. And Devin Booker has been fantastic, but they just don't have enough help and they don't have enough depth. I just don't see a way right now for the Suns to get out of this series, especially if Chris Paul is not coming back. I mean, he has a groin injury. It doesn't look good for game 3 and moving forward in the rest of the series.
Yeah, I mean, and think about Chris Paul, obviously 2021, they get to the NBA Finals, but he deals with a shoulder injury along the path to there. I'm just saying just these last 3 years, because you can go back. Obviously, there was other injury woes with Houston and the Clippers, but 2021 deals with the shoulder. Last playoffs down the stretch against Dallas, undisclosed injury, was not the same player the final 4 games of that series. And now game 2 of the second round, and he has to, he left midway through the third?
No, I think it was it might have been the third or fourth.
Yeah.
Midway through the third, I think. Yeah. And it's just, he was jumping up in the air. You got tangled up with KCP, and then as soon as he landed, he grabbed his groin. And so I saw him walk out of the arena last night, right by me. Actually, he didn't have a pronounced limp or anything like that. But of course, look, I mean, a groin's a groin. So like that's going to be tough to come back from. And
the Suns bench, man, not doing Chris Paul any favors when he has to go out, going 2 for 16. 2 for 16? Yeah. Can somebody step up, or can Monty Williams find a better mix? Because we came into the series thinking that would be the Suns' problem, their depth. And man, are they proving it. Campaign couldn't hit a shot last night.
No, and it's going to come down to like Katie and Devin Booker both exploding, and they are capable of doing it, but both exploding and going for like 40 to 50. I mean, it's
the scary thing is like they're both averaging around 30 in this series. It's not like they're averaging 15. They're actually like 30 already. Like, I don't know if there's more to do.
I mean, look, last night, obviously, like the Suns had the lead, and then the Nuggets came back, and the Nuggets were just like basically like, this is your best shot, like Nikola Jokic. He had been passed first, and he's always passed first. But last night, you could tell he was. And look, maybe he was perhaps. MVP is supposed to be announced on Tuesday. So perhaps Nikola Jokic decided to become aggro Joker. I mean, he was aggressive from the start, and he torched DeAndre Ayton. I mean, there was nothing the Suns could do to stop him. If you're going to double team him, he's going to find Jamal Murray. I mean, they decided to double Murray, and Jokic was basically like, okay, if you're going to double Murray, I'm going to take you inside. I'm going to take you outside. I'm going to score, and there's nothing you can do about it. It was an unbelievable MVP show. So I am looking forward to if the Nuggets do get out of this round, They could be watching a long series on the other side between Lakers, Warriors, and they could be very well rested for that team. But yes, don't let me get too far ahead of myself. We're going back to Phoenix, and they have a great crowd there, and Devin Booker's doing fantastic. And if KD can look like old KD, hey, maybe this could be still be a series.
All right, we shall see. We can talk about MVP next week. We can talk about, maybe your pathway to covering a Western Conference Finals with the Nuggets. And also, definitely, you can tell me how much Tim McMahon's annoying you on the
I'm going to post a picture later today on my IG. You can see that in the picture.
Okay, excellent. I got to turn this hotel room into a Sports Center studio in the next 15 minutes. So for Youngmisuk,
that's what Mike Trudell calls me.
I am not awake yet. For Youngmisuk, I'm David McMenamin. Treat the game well, and they'll treat you well.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.